cameraman is going to come here because we're going to do construction Be'ezrat Hashem soon, and we're going to do some fundraising. So every other thing that we have had in our cameras have been only in colleges and high schools, nothing in the synagogue, to be honest. So we got to show that actually the synagogue does certain activities. So the cameraman is going to come, and he said, please, Rabbi, make sure that this place is full. And I was supposed to do it tonight, but I didn't get a chance. I know not too many people can come. The last minute, we pushed it off to next week. But anyways, one of the things that we're going to learn tonight, guys, you see, everything in the Torah has a spiritual lesson too. Now, why is it important to know that? We say everything in the Torah is eternal, right? Continues forever. So that if you look at the Torah, there are many commandments that we cannot keep. Because not all the Jews live in Israel, there is no temple. One of the exact examples that we could bring is the concept of sacrifices. If somebody sins, they wanted to be atoned, he would bring a sacrifice, right? And then actually there is a Ramban, the Nachmanides, that he explains what kind of a logic is there. Okay, you do a sin, you bring an animal sacrifice, and you get forgiven. What does that mean? So the Ramban explains it's not just bringing a sacrifice in exchange. That wouldn't accomplish anything. The concept of a sacrifice is that imagine when a person does a sin, what he's doing is he's going against God. Now, let me bring you an example. Imagine, I know you'll never come with such an opinion. You're going to say, Rabbi, it's a good idea to walk on the freeway when the cars are zooming, 80 miles an hour. Right? I say, no, you're going to get killed. That's my opinion. You're going to say, no, you have an opinion, but I have a different opinion. Right? Any logical person is such an opinion that it's safe to go on a freeway when they go 80 miles per hour. Is that an opinion?
It's their opinion.
But is it an opinion? Is it a logical?
No, it's not.
It's not. It's not an opinion. I'm sorry. The guy says I'm going to go on the freeway. Nothing's going to happen to me. It's not an opinion at all. It's very, very stupid opinion, right? So now when somebody says, I know what God says, but I think differently. I know God says do this, but I think different. Again, if you believe whatever the Bible says, it's God given, it's God's words. My opinion against God is not an opinion. Right? So that's what the Nachmanides explains. When I do a sin, I can't say, well, that was my opinion. Really, imagine you would do something against the king. There's a death penalty right away. So God says, you know what? Understand, I gave you the evil inclination. Sometimes you fall through. So you repent and you imagine whatever is done to the animal should have been done to you. So feel that and repent for the bad stuff that was done. And then God is going to forgive you. Imagine a guy brings a sacrifice, not repenting a bit. I don't feel bad. I just bring the sacrifice because God said so. The sacrifice accomplishes nothing. We actually have a verse in the prophets that God says, why do you bring me so many sacrifices? You're trampling my home, my house, my temple. People bring sacrifice, they're trampling God's home, trampling on it, because they didn't come doing repentance. So again, we had this in times of the temple. Now that we don't have a temple, you can't bring animal sacrifice. So how's the Torah eternal? This part of the Torah, at least. I can't do the mitzvah. So one of the explanations, I'm not saying this is the only explanation. One of the explanations are that every mitzvah that we have in this physical world, you have that mitzvah in a spiritual sense. So although I cannot do the mitzvah physically, I can go to the temple, to the Beit HaMikdash, bring a sacrifice. But the concept of sacrifice is spiritually. And actually accomplish the same thing that bringing of sacrifices accomplishes. So that's what we're going to learn Be'ezrat Hashem tonight. And actually this is something which is doable. It's very tangible and actually we resonate with it. It's something that happens in our daily life. And if we accomplish this, we have brought the sacrifices. So what is this? If you look in the Torah, actually, it says that God tells Moshe, let's go through the translation. Adam ki yakriv mikem. If a person, please guys, it's very important to know the words. Adam ki yakriv mikem. If a person brings from you korban laHashem, a sacrifice for God, mina behema from an animal, mina bakar from an ox, mina tzon from a sheep or goat, takrivat korban, can bring your sacrifices. Now, what is the problem with this verse? It says, Adam ki yakriv mikem. If a person brings a sacrifice from amongst you, what does it sound like? You're bringing an animal or a human being? a person that brings a sacrifice from amongst you. Doesn't say a person from amongst you that brings a sacrifice. A person that brings a sacrifice from amongst you. That means brings from you. He brings a sacrifice from one of you. We don't bring human sacrifices. The Torah should have said, Adam Mikem, don't be scared. You're not sacrificing anybody. It says, Adam Mikem, a person from you who brings a sacrifice. That's what should have said. But the Torah says, no, Adam Kiakriv, a person that brings a sacrifice, Mikem, from amongst you. Sounds like you're bringing a human sacrifice. Why did the Torah write it? Grammar, whatever. Please forgive my English, my Persian, whatever you want to forgive, my pre-English. The grammar is wrong. The sentencing is wrong. So actually here the commentators say the Torah is also hinting concept of sacrifices spiritually. And as we said, this is actually in our daily life. You have no idea what we can accomplish if you do, sacrifices in a spiritual way. So Adam, by the way, why is the sacrifice called korban? In Persian, we call it qurbani, whatever. But really, why is it called the korban? So one of the Kabbalistic books says that korban comes from the word kiruv. Guys, what does kiruv mean? What? You're not sure? Just guess. I don't criticize anyone. Kiruv. It says the rabbi does kiruv. What is that? What?
Speech.
That's dibur. Kiruv. Kiruv means bring closer.
Oh.
He said the rabbi does kiruv means he brings people closer to God. So why is a korban, the sacrifice is called the korban? So one of the Kabbalistic books, Sefer HaBahir, the name is Book of Bahir, he says because a sacrifice, the concept is that it brings you closer to God. As we said, the person repents, decides not to do the sin, he brings a sacrifice. So we could translate Adam ki yakriv, when a person wants to come close to God, not when a person brings a sacrifice. Adam ki yakriv. Do you really want to get close to God? Then mikem korban lashem. You have to sacrifice something from within you. This is the concept of the sacrifices today. You got to sacrifice something from within you. Now, what do we bring sacrifices from? Humans or animals? From animals. So then if I have to bring myself closer to God, I've got to bring the sacrifice from within me. There is a human side in me and there is the animal side in me. I don't mean as a bad animal. I don't mean that, God forbid. You see, what's the difference of a human and an animal? The human side of you is your godly soul. Your godly soul is very intellectual. Its only desire is to do what God wants. That's what's called godly soul. Then we have a Yetzer Hara, an evil inclination within us. Again, it's not bad. I'm not saying it's not everybody has a vicious, evil inclination to go hurt other people. Some people are extremely nice people. But one of the things that we share with animals is that really they have a very physical life. What does an animal do? He's hungry, he goes to eat. He's tired, he goes to sleep. And even his own intellect, he only uses it how to survive, how to get the food, how to run away from damage. So we have a side in us that its entire desire is to have a nice physical life. I didn't say vicious, God forbid. You're all good people. But there's a side of me, when I'm hungry, I want to eat, and I want to have a delicious food, and I want to have extra sleep. Again, it's nothing evil, seemingly, but that's my animal side. Okay? So now if I want to get close to God, the only way is I got to sacrifice the animal within me. That's what the Torah says. Let's not do it spiritually. Adam ki yakriv, a person that wants to get close to God. Mikem. So it says mikem korban laHashem. You have to bring something from within you to get close to God. Mina behema has to be from the animal within you. Now, what's the animal within us? The Torah says bakar, an ox. And then there's another one, soin, which is sheep or goat. What's the difference of an ox? I'm saying, we're talking about the evil inclination. What's the difference of an ox and a sheep? So you see, we have many, many explanations given. There are some people that are coarse. I'm saying they come at a table, they sit, they don't care who's sitting next to them. Hey, I need to sit. Boom, he just sits down. Very, very coarse. You understand what I'm saying? Or let's say he sees something in you that he doesn't like. Boom, he just says it, the way it is, even hurting your feelings. So ox shows on a coarse person. Some people are very, very coarse, right? They're not, nice, gentle to others. Then you have some people that are very, very gentle people, like a sheep. The sheep is very, very gentle. But at the same time, sheep is a very weak animal. We could be nice, we're extremely nice to other people, but when it comes to my private life, it's very hard for me to control my desires. You see, I don't hurt others, but I have a certain inclination to something, whether it's food, whether it's non-kosher food, whether it's for boys, it's to a girl, whatever it is. I'm just so over there. I'm not a bad person. I don't attack a girl, God forbid. I don't go around doing like things against people's will. But it's very hard for me to control myself in a moral way. So that's a type of a sheep. He's not vicious, but actually it's very, very hard for him to control his desires. Or another way they explain, ox is anger, shows on anger. The Torah always talks about an ox damaging if an ox goes and gores. You ever seen the cartoons? You know, the thing comes out of his nose, what do you call it, the hot air, and then he starts, stamping his feet. An ox shows on anger. Sheep doesn't show on anger. Shows on whatever a shameful animal. Like, sometimes people are embarrassed to show that they're Jews. I wish nobody would find out that I'm Jewish. So that's a sheep, I'm saying? He wants to follow others. He's not a leader. I'm afraid to show that I'm Jewish. Somebody might have concept of an ox, which is very, very angry. So here the Torah says, whatever our evil inclination is, if we sacrifice it or go against it, this is how we bring sacrifices in these days. And we're going to soon see what we accomplish. Imagine I have a nature of anger. I'm a parent, let's say, and my kid does something wrong, and I'm extremely angry. Or my wife or my husband did something, or my father did something. Now, most of you guys are not married yet. The best of you has a potential spouse, right? I don't go for boyfriend, girlfriend. I don't believe in that. I always say you don't have a boyfriend, you don't have a girlfriend, you have a potential wife, potential spouse. I hope the message goes across. It's much healthier that way, I promise you. It's not a class for that. Then your wedding is going to be a very, very special day, because that will be your first experience. Honestly, that's the beauty of it. So I always say, if you have a friend and it's your potential wife, what you do is you do homework, in college, whatever, you keep your distance, and then you get married if you're made for each other. But anyways, how did I get here? I really don't know. But anyways, let's say my parents, did something and I'm angry at them, right? Or whatever it is. When I control my anger, that's such a great accomplishment, because you sacrifice the animal within you, the expression of your anger. Or let's say if I have a desire for something which is not allowed, and I control myself. You have no idea what pleasure God gets. That's a concept of bringing sacrifices in today's life. You sacrifice the animal within you. Is that clear, people? Now, what do we really accomplish? Is it like a big deal? Okay, so one day I control myself. What did I accomplish? Is it a big deal? Actually, it is a big deal. Let's explain why. There's a statement in the Zohar that it says, Kad itkafia. If you actually curb and you control sitra achra, your evil side, that gives such a pleasure to God that God actually gets honored in all the worlds. Let's go through the words, what it means. Okay? It says kadit kafia. When somebody actually controls his evil inclination, sitra achra, the evil side. So it says istalek yekara de kutravirich, God's honor gets elevated in all the worlds. What does that mean, God's honor gets elevated in all the worlds? When God is more revealed, you're more aware of God, so the God's honor goes up. Whenever I control my evil inclination, I reveal the greatest level of um, godliness in the world. I'm telling you, don't think that's a very small thing, even once, to control your evil and go against it. You actually reveal godliness in all the worlds. Why? Because you're going against your nature. Somebody was born religious, right? No big deal for him to keep kosher. He's not really fighting. That's how he was brought up, right? When you were brought up in yeshiva, let's say, right? I was in Chabad yeshiva all my life. They're like so religious that even milk, which is not chalav Yisrael, the kosher milk, whatever it is, all milks are kosher, most of them. But it's not chalav Yisrael. We never had desire to eat or drink. Not because I'm more holy than you. That's how I was brought up. So you're going to tell me, Rabbi, here, eat this Kit Kat. It's very religious, very, very delicious. I have no desire for it. Not because I'm a holy man, because, okay, I was brought up. Kit Kat, is not chalav Yisrael. You don't drink it. But let's say somebody that actually was not brought up in a religious family, right? And he's burning to do something which is against God's will, and he controls himself. The pleasure that you give to God is 10 times more than that religious guy that's sitting and learning whatever he's doing, what his nature is. Breaking the nature is the hardest thing. I'm not kidding. Right? They say to change our nature a little bit is harder than mastering the entire Talmud, the entire oral Torah. That's what Rabbi Yisrael Salanter said. To change a little bit a habit of ours is harder than going through the whole Shas, the whole Gemara. So if somebody's born religious and he does whatever because he was brought up that way, he's doing what he likes. He's doing what his nature is. Of course, he's good. I'm not putting him down, but he's doing whatever he likes. Over here, when I want to do something wrong because I wasn't brought up religious, or I'm in the college and there's such a temptation because of peer pressure, I got to give in. Otherwise, they're going to bully me. There was one time I was a driver for younger kids. We had a camp. It was in the Chabad house in Westwood. So there was, forgive me, I'm saying that. I should have maybe, but I'm going to say in the most clean way that I can. There was a 12-year-old girl that used to give a ride. It was like, I used to drive the station wagon. I had like 9 kids. You remember the old station wagons, the long Chevys? But once, the minivans came, there's no more station wagons, outdated. Now you got minivans. Anyway, so there was this station wagon. I used to drive a bunch of kids to camp. There was a 12-year-old girl from Beverly Hills. So says Rabbi, did you ever have this is a very bad word. Did you ever have relationships with a girl? Did you ever have an experience? I was 19. I said no. So says Rabbi, you're a nerd. A 12-year-old told me as a 19-year-old, right? I can understand. I don't blame them. At that time, Beverly Hills, they didn't know about AIDS yet. It was like in the mid-'80s. AIDS hasn't come yet. So they have this burn. I was just surprised she was 12 years old. I think they found out about AIDS in Africa in 1984 or something like that. I don't remember exactly. But again, I'm the nerd. You know what I'm saying? So you go to public school, they do all the wrong stuff. You're a nerd. You didn't touch a girl, you didn't touch a boy. My gosh, you're a nerd. So actually, if you have the burning, and at the same time, people make fun of you. If you stand strong, you control your whatever Yetzirah. This gives the biggest pleasure to God. That's a concept of sacrifice. Now, we don't have to go to religious stuff that much. But let's say even if somebody did something wrong to you, and you could get him back. He did something bad to me. I could get him back. He needs me to help him. I could tell him, I'm going to give you the taste of your medicine. I'm going to take revenge. And I don't take revenge. I'm going against my evil inclination. As you know, revenge is sweeter than honey. It's a verse that King Solomon says. Natural nature of a person, revenge is the sweetest thing. I get even with him. But I don't take revenge. I help him. Or at least, even if I don't want to help him, I control myself. I don't take revenge. You have no idea what a great accomplishment that is. This is the concept of sacrifices today. Are you videoing?
No.
And if you do, don't send it to Biden.
I don't want to send it to
Send it to Trump. You know why? Because I know Trump won't raid my house. But Biden is going to raid my house with FBI.
That's actually sleeping. You don't know.
Okay. And then he's going to say, I took, what is that thing called? Like secret information. What do you call that?
Yeah.
No. What Trump took to his house. Classified stuff, yeah. I take classified things from the temple to my house. You could see I'm not a Biden fan, for sure. They say when Trump lost, wasn't because people liked Biden. It's because people hated Trump. And the question is, do they still hate him that much that they're going to go for Biden again? Or they don't hate him as much? So that's a question, what politicians are talking about. But anyways, that was one thing that I wanted to know. Any questions, people? I hope it wasn't, I hope it was something that we could resonate, we could actually, have some feeling, resonates in us. Honestly, the greatest thing is when you control your evil inclination, your nature, you break it in a positive way. You accomplish more than the most religious person that never has to fight with his evil inclination. Yes, sir.
So what can a religious man do to kind of have that same thing as if someone's not religious and let's say they start eating kosher, they hold back them not eating non-kosher, what can a religious man do to have the same?
Well, I could tell you something. Even a religious man, there are certain parts in the Torah that is failing. A religious person could still take revenge, unfortunately. A religious person might give himself the freedom to speak gossip behind somebody's back. I'm sure you have seen that. So we are struggling over there. If I shut my mouth for 1 second, I don't say one bad word, That's where the religious guy is finding his evil inclination. Or let's say looking at something which is very pleasurable to look at, but he's going to hold himself back. I'm not going to look at it. Let me just share a story with you. There was a man that his name was Rav Mordechai Chernobyl. He was from city of Chernobyl, from Russia. His name was Rav Mordechai. Now, this guy said in the olden days, honestly, people were so poor, they couldn't afford lulav and etrog for Sukkot. These days you go to religious synagogues, right? Everybody has an etrog. You could even buy the cheapest etrog for $35. It's not the best quality, right? Come on, who doesn't have $35 now? If you now go to eat pizza, one pie plus Coke is going to cost you $30. It's $21 plus tax, right? And we go once in a while, eat a pie of pizza, right? You guys have no cholesterol, so you could eat two pies. I can't even eat half a pie, because I have cholesterol. I have to scrape all the cheese. But then if I eat the bread, I get heavy, I fall asleep. So I decided, my wife said, don't eat anything. Just eat nuts, and bananas. I guess let's see what happens if I want to lose weight. But anyways, so who doesn't have $35 to buy, etrog and lulav? The olden days they had no money. So what happened? The rabbi would buy the most expensive lulav and etrog, and people would stand in line on Sukkot morning to actually go and take the rabbi's lulav and etrog and give a blessing on it. So there was this man, Rab Mordechai Chernobyl, was a very big tzaddik. He really wanted to buy a lulav and etrog, but he didn't have the money. He couldn't afford it. So what did he do? He had a pair of tefillin that he got from his grandfather. So imagine somebody's going to give you like the tefillin of the Chafetz Chaim, the tefillin of the Lubavitch Rebbe, right? You would give big money. Wow, this is a tefillin that is tzaddik wore. You probably give thousands of dollars, to buy it, maybe more. So he decided to go to a Jewish pawn shop, and he said, "Listen, I'm giving my grandfather's tefillin. Give me some cash, because for the next 9 days, I'm not going to put on tefillin, right? Sukkot is 9 days. So I could buy a lulav and etrog. So if I get the money back, I'll bring it to you. Give my tefillin back by a certain date. If not, go sell it. You're going to get millions of dollars. I mean, whatever, thousands of dollars. Just tell them this is from my grandfather, Rav Mordechai Chernobyl." Anyways, he did it, and he bought the most expensive etrog. He came home, he was beaming, he was smiling. So his wife comes and said, "What are you smiling about? We are miserable, we have nothing to eat." He was a very poor man. So he says, "You know why I'm so happy? Because I was able to buy an etrog for the first time." And he says, "How did you buy this etrog? We don't have money to have bread and water in our house." So he says, "Well, I gave my tefillin in a pawn shop and I was able to buy it." So she was so angry. He says, "I don't understand you. We have daughters that are marriageable age. I begged you so many times, go pawn your tefillin, sell your tefillin, whatever it is, for our daughters to get married. And I just want to add, in today's day, in the Persian world, the boy has to have money. Otherwise, the girls don't look at him. In the Ashkenazi world, was the opposite. The parents of the girl had to have money. Otherwise, the boys wouldn't look at them. They would have a hard time. So it says, I'm begging you to sell your tefillin to marry off our daughters. And legally, you could do that. You could even sell a Sefer Torah. So you can't sell Sefer Torah for anything except sending somebody yeshiva to learn, or even more important, to make sure two poor people get married. Because marriage, two people getting married, is even more important than buying a Sefer Torah for a synagogue. So it says you don't sell your tefillin for our daughters to get married. You went and did this to have an etrog for 9 days. You could have taken the rabbi's etrog. She got so angry that he grabbed the etrog from the hands of the husband and threw it on the ground. What happened to it? It broke. Once it breaks, is the etrog kosher? It's not kosher. So then, anybody else would have screamed at his wife. So it says, you know what? Forget it. Tefillin I don't have. I pawned it. Even etrog I don't have. What am I going to do? Do another sin and scream at my wife? I'm not going to scream at my wife. But it was very, very, sad that night when he went to sleep. So his grandfather came to his dream. And he said, my grandson, Mordechai, I want to tell you, no matter what a pleasure God had from the fact that you pawned your tefillin to buy an etrog, the fact that you controlled your anger, you didn't scream at your wife, that was, be'ein aruch, no way to compare. That gave much bigger pleasure to God. It's amazing. I'm saying he didn't scream at his wife. So please, you tell any boy you go out with, this is what the rabbi said tonight at this classroom. When you don't scream at me, if the supper is too late, no problem. Okay, big deal. You know what happens if you come home, your wife didn't make supper? Take her to a restaurant. It just shouldn't happen too often, you know what I'm saying? But if it happens once in a while, take it. You know why? Because in the ketubah, you take upon yourself, I'm going to make protection for you, a house, makeup, food, jewelry. So food is upon you. If there's no food, I don't take it to a restaurant. You agree? But not too often. Right? Once a month, maybe.
7 days.
You can't do 7 days a week because Shabbat you can't go to a restaurant. So 6 days a week.
6 days.
Okay, that's good. It was like a very, very beautiful story. He controlled his anger, and that gave the biggest pleasure to God. How many times do we get angry, guys? Especially when we were younger. And you become a grandpa, you don't get angry anymore. Seriously, you don't have the energy, or you have a lot of experience. So many experiences you have in life, so many terrible things that has happened. That you appreciate your wife, you appreciate your children, you appreciate your grandchildren. Usually it's that way. I hope so. But till we become a grandpa, we go through a lot of aggravations. Control your anger. You understand that? That's the biggest pleasure to God. Or anything else. Control something that you really badly want to do. Anyways, going to the next part, guys. Because I'm going to finish in 5-6 minutes. If you look at the beginning of this week's parasha, Vayikra, it says God called Moshe, right? If you see, the aleph is very small. Right, Vayikra. God called Moshe. So the aleph in the Sefer Torah is written very small. You see, we have three types of letters: average letters, big letters, and we have small letters. For example, the beginning of the Torah, Bereshit, the bet is very big, right? We have a few places in the Torah. A few places in the Torah, the letter is very small. So one of them is Vaikra, God called Moshe. Vaikra means God called Moshe. Now, why is the aleph very small? That's a question that they have. So one of the answers that they give is, if you compare, there is one of the books in the Ketuvim, in the Tanakh, it's called Divrei Hayomim. Divrei Hayomim means chronicles. So within one of our prophets wrote the whole life from Adam Arishon, all the way to the end of, to the time of the first Beit HaMikdash. So within when he says the first man was Adam, the aleph of Adam is very big. Here when God says Vaikra, he called Moshe, the aleph is very small. So the third Lubavitch Rebbe asked his grandfather, why is the aleph of Vaikra calling very small? So he says, you know what, let's compare it to what it says in Divrei Hayomim. Adam Arishon, he didn't have the proper humility because he was created by God. He wasn't created from his mother. There was no mother at that time, right? But we know there is a joke. They say, why did Adam live so long? 930 years. Because he had no mother-in-law. Why did he die? Because he had a wife. But that's only a joke. Don't take it to heart. It's a joke. I'm telling you, it's a joke. He lived that long because he had a good wife. Anyway, so Adam Arishon was actually, he wasn't born from a mother, so he was a little bit, arrogant. I don't want to say the word arrogant. He didn't have the humility. And he felt, because God created me, I'll never fall into a sin. And he actually fell into a sin. Moses, on the other side, was the most humble man on the earth. That's why the aleph is very small. By Adam, the aleph is very big. He felt very big. He wasn't humble enough. Moses, on the other side, although he spoke to God face to face, he was a very, very humble person. Honestly, humility is one of the greatest character traits that a person has. I don't mean you feel you're worse than others. No. I'm not talking about, a person not having, what is the word, self-confidence, or there's a better word for it. What do you call that if somebody's
Self-esteem.
yeah, self-esteem. I'm not saying don't have self-esteem. Moses knew who he was. When we say he was a humble person, he never felt more arrogant or higher than somebody else. And the reason is because Moses realized whatever he accomplished is because it was God's gift. God gave him a special neshama. God gave him, the what do you call it? The chance to be raised in Pharaoh's palace. That he had access to all the books, to all the studies, the best teachers. And then, actually he had a very special neshama too. If somebody else would have the same situation as Moshe, he would have been as great as Moshe, maybe even better than Moshe. That's why I didn't feel more arrogant. You know what I'm saying? If you feel, I did it, man, I accomplished it, you are nothing, I accomplished more than you, then you feel more arrogant. If you feel whatever you accomplish is a gift of God, what is there to be arrogant about? It's not me, it's not you, it's the gift of God. That's what Moses had. So this is one thing, that we learn from Moshe Rabbeinu. Look at our blessings and become humble. Look at it as a gift of God. Don't become arrogant. And then, God willing, that brings all the blessings with it. All right, people, we're going to finish in 3 minutes. Just wanted to share with you any questions, but we finish in 3 minutes. If it comes 4 minutes, don't get angry. All right. So what happens is, guys, we have 4 mitzvot for Purim. By the way, the fast is this Thursday. For the ones that could fast, the reason is because Purim is on Sunday, so you can't fast on Shabbat. You can't fast on Friday either if the day is not on Friday, so it falls on Thursday. You don't want to get hungry into Shabbat, unless the fast falls on Friday, which this year didn't fall. So anyways, what happens is you fast on a Thursday. So the funny thing is you don't read the Megillah after the fast this year, because it's not Purim. You're going to read it after Shabbat, Saturday night, and Sunday morning sometime. There's actually going to be a college Purim Seudah. Everybody knows Arshia Kontov? Right? No? Well, JLIC, right? They have like 80 guys going to a house on Avenida Orienta or something in his house. I think it's 5146 Avenida Orienta. There's going to be a Purim Seudah at 3:30 on Sunday. There is no charge, and the food is coming from Lenny's Casitas. 3:30 in the afternoon, there's going to be reading of the Megillah. Please don't forget about that during the day. At night, you go to any synagogue that you go to after Shabbat. There's also a mitzvah to have hear the Megillah twice, the Purim meal. Give money to poor people. And then there's another mitzvah also to give gifts of food to each other, right? I just wanted to share with you. First of all, we give money to the poor. The main reason is we should be able to have a good meal on Purim. Everybody's supposed to have a festive meal, meat, bread, wine. If you have a lot of capacity, drink Blue Label, whatever, Johnny Walker, if you're above 21. Otherwise, zero alcohol beer. So some people don't have the money to be able to have a Suda, so we give them the money. The problem is that some people are embarrassed. Again, people have dignity. I don't want to go, hey, please, I have no money for Purim. Give me some money. It's really, really embarrassing. So what did the rabbis do to save them from embarrassment? So there's the mitzvah to give food gifts to each other. Why do we do that? Reason number one is because Haman gossiped and said Jews don't get along. Jews always fight. Right? That was his Lashon Hara. They're fighting, they're like bad for the country, kill them. So the fact that we give gifts to each other shows that Jews are united. It was actually a story. There were two sisters that didn't talk to each other. So then one of the daughters wanted to make peace. Come on, I love my cousin. I'm saying, but the parents said, don't you talk to my sister's daughter, don't you talk to my other sister's daughter. So the cousins loved each other, they couldn't talk to each other. So the girl makes such a genius thing. She goes and takes Mishloach Manot, the food gift, and puts it on his aunt's door. And he writes, from your sister. She lies. So the sister opens the door, a couple hours later, says, oh my gosh, my sister sent me Mishloach Manot. I'm so sorry, I didn't know that she loves me. I thought she hates me. So she actually goes and sends Mishloach Manot to the sister. Now the sister has no idea that the daughter gave it. So says, oh my gosh, my sister sent me Mishloach Manot. I have to give my sister Mishloach Manot too. So she gives a second one. And then the other sister also gives a second one. But anyways, these two sisters became friends. So the idea of Mishloach Manot, the number one reason is that we should get connected. Jews are united. But there's another reason. Because many people are embarrassed to go and ask for money to have Sudat Purim. So the rabbi said, even rich people give food gifts to each other. So then the poor person is not going to be embarrassed. Because even the rich person gets it. Doesn't have a shape of charity anymore. It's a gift. So the embarrassment is not there. So this is it's such a such a simple halacha. We all know, but we didn't know the reasons behind it. It's simply being sensitive to the feelings of somebody else. So this is one of the lessons that we learn from Purim. Number one, we have to care for each other. And number two, the way we care has to be in a way that we don't cause embarrassment at all. Thank you guys for